What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze apologists' claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're taking a look at a friar. I believe he's a friar. He is from Breaking the Habit. I can't remember what his name is, but he's from Breaking the Habit, and he is going to be telling us why we should not have open minds, or rather our minds shouldn't be open to other possibilities as far as like questions that we have, either about science, about religion, about spiritualness. Like at some point we need to be closed-minded, and you won't guess it, but apparently open-mindedness is destroying our societies. So if you want to fuck around and find out why Friar Tuck thinks that we should close our minds off, then please stay tuned. Get over here. We have, boom, Friar Tuck. What's up there, Friar Tuck? How you doing? All right, so we got Friar Tuck here who's going to be explaining to us why open-mindedness is destroying our society. All right, Friar Tuck, convince me that I should no longer be open-minded. I feel like as an atheist, like me being an atheist, Friar Tuck should definitely want me to still be open-minded, but obviously it's a very one-way street for him. He doesn't think he needs to be open-minded, but obviously I need to be open-minded completely. So let's see.
In our world today, there may not be a more important value than having an open mind, or a more hurtful insult than to be called closed-minded. We applaud people that are always asking questions, always seeking, always open to new things, and look down on those who are stuck in their ways, who refuse to change.
I don't look down on people. Like that's a weird way to characterize it, because it's not like he's providing any kind of nuance for this. Because it's like, if you're convinced of a position, do I think that you should be closed off to other possibilities? No, I guess I don't. But for a lot of positions that I have, the likelihood of you overturning that in my lifetime is slim to none. Like for instance, evolution definitely happened. He would probably classify me as, yes, honey, he would classify me as a dumbass. He would probably classify me as being closed-minded about evolution and closed-minded about God creating everything and creating organisms and all that kind of stuff. I would not classify myself that way. I guess I am open to other possibilities being proven. I feel like the requirement for evidence is going to exceed what he's expecting, because he just wants you to get to the thought-stopping conclusion, no, God did it, and just stop and not continue to have an open mind. I feel like that's where he's going. I haven't actually seen the entire video yet. I just know enough that I was wanting to respond to it.
Frankly, I think that it might be our most toxic quality, and it's destroying our society.
Being open-minded, the most toxic quality, and destroying society. Had to take a sip on that one.
Let me explain. On the surface, having a so-called open mind is not a bad thing. Removing our biases and preconceived notions, looking at the world as it is rather than how we want it to be, taking in new information and adjusting our opinions, these are all good things. What I love about the idea of an open mind is the desire to always be seeking and learning. Especially as a Christian, I know that 1,000 lifetimes could never exhaust all that there is to learn about the unimaginable mystery that is God and the beauty and wonder of his creation. To sit back, unimpressed, to be content with where we are, seems like a sin against the gift of reason that God has given us.
I don't know, but memory serves, like, y'all motherfuckers killed a whole bunch of people for asking questions about God and not just being closed-minded about, you know, previous things. Religious people in the past, both Protestant and Catholic, have been very much against open-mindedness in general and not seeking alternative explanations and soaking in all of the, you know, all of the natural world. Of course, he declares it a sin against God to not use our reason in that way, when really in the past, for the majority of the Catholic criminal organization, as well as Protestants, it's actually been this whole open-mindedness and this seeking of new information and all that kind of shit has gotten a lot of people killed there, Friar Tuck. Why in the fuck would you even say that this is a sin against God, when very obviously, if we just take a statistical look at the likelihood that that's true, it seems like it's not. Like, it seems like God wants to kill motherfuckers. They're going to question his ass. Like, once you get the answer, God did it. you're supposed to stop thinking. At least that's what they've done all throughout time. And I mean, obviously the Catholic Church as well as Protestant churches and all that have been drug along, kicking and screaming, even from within the church itself. Now, I'm not saying that individuals within the Catholic organization can't, seek out new information and incorporate that and like be able to explain shit with natural stuff. I mean, obviously there have been many scientists in the past that have been Catholic priests and have done scientific work in the Catholic Church. So I'm not saying that every single person is that way, but the Catholic organization and the Catholic criminal empire on the whole has resoundingly persecuted people for doing the exact thing that he is saying. I understand that he's progressive, right? Progressive Catholic, whatever in the fuck that might mean. But to sit there and act like there isn't this war against attaining new information and working new information that shows that, oh, God's not responsible for this. This other process is. Or maybe Friar Tuck could be explaining it like, well, that's just revealing how God is doing it. And that's just moving the goalposts. You're just moving the goalposts further and further back because at one time, lightning, all that kind of shit. God did it. That's God. God's throwing lightning bolts, probably shooting them out of his dick from up there on high. I mean, that's how people understood it. Then we understood how lightning actually operates and all this other stuff, which is a natural process. And it's like, oh, well, that's just how God does it. But God is still the one that does it and everything. And then we figure out how energy states changing is not something that needs any kind of magic to it. It's like, oh, but it still needs God in order for the energy states to change and all this other stuff. And for everything to happen, still requires God. Further and further moving God back into the gaps of our knowledge and into the gaps of things that we understand.
Seeking is a good thing. Wondering is a virtue. Welcoming new information is essential for all Christians. We must have an open mind to all that is true, beautiful, and good so that we ourselves may be transformed by all that is true, beautiful, and good. I don't have a problem with any of this. No, the problem I have with much of our world is not that it insists on an open mind per se. It's that it never allows for an open mind to reach a conclusion. Tell someone that you're a seeker, that you're someone who stares out over the ocean and wonders how it all came to be and where we're all going.
I'm not going to try to provide like a full and complete answer to this particular question, but I mean, we definitely have the information that explains how the seas formed, how the seas got salty. We can explain like every single facet of that. We can explain where most likely our country is going depending on what the outcomes of certain elections are. Like we can predict these things using science. We can know where we're going. Does he mean like where we're going like in our lives? Where we're going in our lives? Or does he mean like where we're going after we die? Because I feel like a lot of apologists, Catholic or not, heavily focus on death. Like they focus on what happens after you die. I don't know, and I don't care. I'm going to be dead. So why don't we focus on what's happening in my life like now and what will be happening in my life? That's why I care about climate change. That's why I care about a Cheeto not getting back into the presidency. Like those are the fact that I'm living right now and I want to live my best life. Like that's the reason why I care about this life. But apologists always seem to focus on death, but we could answer these questions. And it's not that our minds are closed at that point once we attain these natural explanations. It just means that the likelihood of a magical explanation superseding a natural explanation is very low. So unless you provide me with like a different natural explanation for the seas or any particular fact about the seas, my mind is going to be made up about how the seas formed. We can explain that. We can explain how mountains formed. But if you're going to come at me with, oh, magical man in the sky, the old ass wizard that eternally exists, but yet also infinite regresses can't exist, but my personal favorite infinite regress has always existed. He is the one that actually pissed out the oceans. Yep. He also maneuvered the ball of the earth, and he's the one that created all the land masses. And then he was drinking a lot of beer at the time, and so then he had to piss the oceans out. And so basically when you're swimming in the ocean, that's God's piss. That's why it's so salty. But my point is that just because you've been convinced of a position does not necessarily mean that you're 100% closed-minded to other possibilities. But that seems to be what Friar Tuck here is claiming, that skeptics of God and more, I guess, supernatural side to reality, our minds are closed off to it. Now, typically that doesn't come up in a conversation like, oh, so you're just totally closed off to the idea of God. Some atheists will tell you yes, but other atheists will, tell you no. I'm one of the atheists that will tell you, no, I'm not closed off to it. I just think that the evidence required to supersede the natural explanations is far too great for a more magical notion to overcome. And until you can provide the evidence that would be needed, I am going to steadfastly hold to the natural explanations.
And people think that you're deep and interesting. Tell someone that you're a Christian, that you believe that the ocean and all of creation are the works of God and that everything should fulfill its purpose in giving God glory. Well, you know the response.
What would be the response? If I heard that, I'd be like, okay, I really don't give a fuck, dude. Like, if he were to tell me that, I wouldn't think one way or another about him. I mean, I might be a little disappointed with a person because they've obviously bought into magical thinking. And it's not that I think that they're completely stupid or anything like that. But if you are partaking in magical thought processes, or you are convinced by magic of some kind, I don't necessarily dismiss you or anything like that, but I guess I'm less likely to accept any kind of explanation you could give me for anything that I want to know, because I feel like what I would then get is some magical explanation like, damn it, why did this car wreck happen today of all days? Why? And then you come in with your bullshit like, well, God is punishing you for something. Or, well, God works in mysterious ways. At that point, I'm like, fucking shut up, Ricky. Okay? Shut the fuck up. That doesn't tell me anything. I was being rhetorical, you dipshit. I mean, at that point, I would probably be a bit caustic, right? But just simply telling me, oh, I definitely believe in a magical wizard that created everything, and it's a sin not to please that God, make sure you work the shaft, cradle the balls and everything. Like, if somebody were to tell me that, I'd be like, oh, par for the course. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of people believe that. Great. Good for fucking you. Could you please change my oil now? I'm not trying to shit on anybody who works at any of those service places, but I mean, I've changed my own oil before, so.
Can you know this? What arrogance? Who are you to tell me that my ideas are wrong? As a society, we value minds that question, but belittle minds that claim to have answers to questions.
No, I don't think that we do belittle minds that claim to have answers. It just depends on what the answer is that you're giving. I get it. If I go to a church and I ask somebody, how did that tree get there? They're going to tell me God put it there, or that God is the reason why the trees exist, or some kind of bullshit like that. They are going to tell me that. So, I mean, I totally expect religious people to keep on religiousing, right? I'm not expecting a religious person to do anything other than that. I would hope that a religious person could explain the actual natural processes that go into plants developing and all this other stuff, like accepting evolution for the fact that it is. But I mean, if I go to a Southern Baptist church, I'm not going to expect them to accept evolution. I'm going to expect them to think God created everything. But if I go to a more progressive church, maybe Casey, I think his name's Father Casey. Anyways, Friar Talk here. If I go and ask him about evolution, I think that he probably would accept evolution. Hopefully, if he is progressive. But I'm not expecting somebody that's obviously not going to accept natural explanations to then accept natural explanations. I'm not going to do that.
I think of it a lot like the cliche often attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's not the destination that matters, but the journey. At first, it seems wise. It reminds us that how we get somewhere matters, that we should care about the process, the ways, and the means. And that's true. We don't want to lie or cheat to get somewhere. We don't want to get to our destination having lost ourselves along the way. For what good would the destination be at that point?
I can agree with him on this, but at the same time, this hasn't always been the position of the Catholic Church, let alone the full breadth of the Christian denomination. Maybe this is a symptom of being a progressive Catholic in this kind of sense. I do feel like he's doing a bit of a disservice by acting like, oh, this is what Catholicism is, or anything like that. I feel like by not acknowledging the past problems with this idea, or the fact that this is a problem within Christianity itself, I feel like ignoring that fact is leaving out important information, important contextual information, and it can make it seem like he's trying to whitewash history about it, or he's trying to hide the fact that this is a problem, like going against, the things that he's saying in this video.
But the opposite is true as well. What good is a journey if we never actually reach a destination? If we never even have a destination in mind? If all we do is wander around forever, never reaching a place better than where we started? The journey is not all that matters. That's ridiculous. The destination is the purpose and fulfillment of a journey. While there may obviously be enjoyment along the way and lessons learned on the road, the reason we set out in the first place is not for journeying itself, but to get somewhere.
I feel like the major issue here is that he foresees like an end to this journey. He foresees absolute knowledge, right? Like there is, to him, obviously, because he's a Catholic, he feels like there is somebody out there that has perfect absolute knowledge about everything. And so there is an end to it. Now, it's not that I disagree with that, this idea of like absolute truth being like a thing, but whether or not we can attain that, I don't think that we can. Like, how would we ever know? What would be the criteria of attaining some absolute truth, right? How do we know, like some truth that cannot change, it's immutable? How would you know that you've actually attained that knowledge? And obviously for religious people, they feel like they've attained that knowledge when, they get to God did it. Like, and that's the only answer that I have seen from people, is that the absolute information is God did it. And we know that that's not true. Many times in the past have we figured out God did it. And then later on, somebody's like, you know what? I don't exactly think that it's God, but let's actually run the evidence here. And then they find out that God is not required for that shit, right? So it's like, we know that our perception of our reality changes constantly. So why would I be so narcissistic to think that I've actually reached the end of that journey? Why should I think that? Oh, because of a fucking old book told me God did it, and so I should just stop thinking about it? What Casey is doing here, Friar Tuck, what he's doing here is he's making a case for you to stop thinking. It's literally thought-stopping arguments in this entire video, because he wants you to get to a conclusion, close your mind off, and then just accept it. And I mean, I feel like I could use the same argument, like, oh, just accept that God's not responsible for most, if not all, of the things that happen in reality. I say if not all because I'm just leaving it open to the possibility of, things changing in the future and God being proven in some kind of way and God being responsible for something. Like there's that little tiny sliver of a chance that that's actually true. So, I mean, I'm not closed-minded on anything because I accept that shit can change. And more importantly, our perception and description of our reality will change at some point. You have to remain open-minded so that you can accept the new information, which is not something that I've it's not something that he's disagreed with. He said earlier that he agrees with accepting new information, working that into your worldview and all this other kind of shit. But now he's making the counter argument of, there are certain things that you should just, stop thinking about. You should just stop thinking about whether or not God exists because we got an old fucking book over here that says that he exists. So just stop fucking thinking about it.
When I look at our world, what I see is a society that is always on the road but never getting anywhere. It insists that people head out on a journey, that it asks deep questions, ponder life's mysteries, keep an open mind, but never get anywhere. Those who reach their destination, who stand by an answer, who say that they have found what they are looking for and do not want to journey any longer, are scoffed at and belittled. While there is always a need for intellectual humility and we should be cautious of speaking dogmatically about every little thing, the idea of living life without any dogmas, without any moral imperatives, without any belief that is beyond change, is a life that doesn't stand for anything.
See, that's just fucking ignorant to say right there. Like, not being dogmatic about something means that you're living life for nothing or whatever in the fuck he said. Like, your life has no meaning at that point. What in the fuck? Like, no, my life still has meaning. I have a very fulfilling life, even if I don't have any kind of dogmas, because I'm not dogmatic about anything at all. Like, I'm not dogmatically simping for Joe Biden or anything like that, as I explained before. I'm not dogmatic about evolution. I mean, I accept evolution for the fact that it is because of all the evidence that's been presented. But, asterisk here, if you provided me with evidence that showed me a magical wizard used his dick to create everything and it was compelling enough, then I would be convinced by that. I feel like everybody should remain open to their perspectives and their ideas being changed. And that's just talking about the bare facts of what we understand about reality, right? These hard facts that we've been able to show about reality. We're not even discussing how our minds perceive reality and what that fucking means. The fact that our minds are flawed means that we can perceive reality incorrectly. And oftentimes people do. There are medicines for a lot of that. But my point is that because of our limited ability to experience reality and our limited understanding of reality, our worldview should constantly change, and our worldview should never reach a state of dogmatism. You should never be in a position where you're dogmatic about anything. You should always be open to change. That doesn't mean that you should change as the wind blows, but it definitely means that if somebody provides you with enough evidence to convince you away from a previously held position, then you should probably be convinced away from that previously held position. I mean, I realize that this can be used like from the religious perspective of religious people being convinced away from reasonable positions. This is all about how we are perceiving reality. Somebody can perceive that evidence is stronger than it actually is, but should that convince you that it is? I mean, that's the big thing. What I'm talking about is entirely subjective to each person. What each person considers to be concrete proof or good evidence for their position, that's different for nearly everybody in one way or another. And to think of life as just having no purpose or meaning or being useless or whatever like that, if you have no dogmas, like that's just emotionally and toxically abusive right there. I mean, I get it. This guy's a progressive Catholic, but the toxic emotional manipulation that's emanating from this speech here and every single fucking one of his videos is just so thick.
The dirty truth of the matter is that nobody actually lives this way. As much as people demand open minds and decry any sense of dogma, there isn't a person on earth that doesn't hold some truth beyond questioning.
What might I ask? Do you think I dogmatically hold to? I feel like I've laid out here my own personal and obviously subjective criteria of, providing enough evidence to convince me away from a position, and I will be convinced away from a position. It doesn't matter what position it is. I mean, if you're going to sit there and tell me that the sky's actually purple and not blue, there's a possibility that that's true. Like there are people with different disabilities where they perceive colors in a different way and all this other stuff. So could I be just another person that is perceiving the universe in a different way or perceiving colors in a different way? Yeah. Provide me the evidence with it for it, and I'll be convinced away from it. I mean, it's really fucking simple, and I would love to hear somebody tell me what kind of dogma I hold to. He's just basically saying and generalizing of all people that everybody holds to a dogma. And obviously, I feel like Friar Tuck would paint me as dogmatically holding to God not existing. I don't know about evolution for him. I don't know if he accepts evolution or not, but for a lot of Christians out there, they would say that people that accept evolution for the fact that it is, they would be dogmatic about evolution. But being strongly convinced of a position is different from being dogmatic. And I feel like anybody that's religious can understand what dogmatic means, because in religion, you have a dogma. These are the truths that are taught by our religion and they cannot change. And that's true. It's just that people decide, oh, well, I mean, I don't think that this is true or that's true. And so they go off and they create their own fucking denomination or their own fucking religion, and they claim that that religion is dogmatically true. So yeah, most religious people are going to be dogmatic about something. concerning God. That is not the same thing for people that don't believe in your magical wizard.
Are we to keep an open mind about genocide, always giving an opportunity for the other side to convince us otherwise? No. Must we stay open to the idea that the Earth may actually be flat, that NASA and every scientist in the world for the past 2,500 years has been involved in a conspiracy? Please.
See, I really hate it when they start comparing it to flat Earth, like when they start using these false analogies, because that's what this is. I mean, obviously, I feel like anybody that is, I guess, anti-flat Earth would say specifically that the preponderance of evidence suggests that we live on an oblate spheroid that orbits around a central star, and that there are other planets in our solar system that are also spheres or oblate spheroids, and they orbit around the sun. And so it's because of the preponderance of evidence that suggests this that we believe it. If on some weird piece of evidence that exists out there, you can show how reality operates completely differently, is structured completely differently, so that we are actually on a flat Earth. If you had that evidence, you would convince people that we don't live on an oblate spheroid. So his analogy is not only wrong, but it's a false analogy when we're talking about other shit, because flat Earth is hard science. Right? Like, well, anti-flat Earth. Anti-flat Earth is hard science. It's a hard science to prove, like hard as in tangible, like something that we can definitely point to and say, this is obvious evidence that the Earth is an oblate spheroid, that kind of thing. So this is hard science that we're dealing with. When we're talking about like the philosophy of God or philosophy in general, that's soft. That's soft. Those kinds of things would be soft sciences, proposing that God exists and that he's responsible for the earth and everything like that. Like, we have hard evidence to show how the earth developed over time. Millions and billions of years, we have that evidence. So if you're going to disagree with that and just say God, well, then you're on the level of flat eartherism, right? You're on the level of creationism, which is like in the same kind of realm as flat eartherism. But when we're talking about whether or not God exists or anything of that nature, you cannot use this comparison here. You just simply can't. And also, I would say that if you're more accepting of science as a religious person, but you still point to God, then you're still introducing magic into it. While you're not on the level of creationism or flat eartherism or anything like that, you're still trying to insert magic into into what we can tell is most, if not completely, natural world. And so by doing that, I mean, I feel like you are sort of stooping down a little bit towards those creationists and flat earther fucks. All right. But you have to appropriately give a correct analogy here. And claiming that being open-minded about whether or not God exists is the same thing as being open-minded about flat Earth. I feel like you're not grasping how those are different things. It's like apples and Chevrolets.
Should we treat the love we receive from our parents, spouse, siblings, and friends with skepticism, mindful of the fact that we cannot know for sure if they're being honest, and so should protect ourselves in case they're lying? I hope not. The fact of the matter is that there are certain things in life we have to either accept or not accept. Some things have a mountain of evidence to support them, making doubt more difficult, while other things must be accepted simply on intuition, but the point remains. Eventually, we have to choose one way or another. Do we believe or do we not?
I think that making the decision as to whether or not you believe doesn't mean you have to be closed-minded about it. For instance, in the respect of God, I would call myself an agnostic atheist. I don't believe, so I made that decision that I don't believe in God, right? But I'm agnostic because I don't know whether or not God exists. I don't know if there's some deity out there that, could have set everything in motion and then just let it all go, right? Like, I don't know if that actually happened. I don't know if there's like a supernatural aspect to our reality, but I'm not going to sit here and proclaim to know that there isn't or there is. And so, I mean, I feel like agnostic on a lot of these positions is a good place to be in as far as whether or not you know that they exist. And so I feel like that's what keeps me open-minded to being convinced away from my position. And my guess is that he would definitely be in support of me remaining open-minded here. He just doesn't like it when, people claim that he's closed-minded about stuff. He's closed-minded about whatever fucking topic that he definitely accepts as the absolute truth just because his old ass book says so.
To journey our entire lives without reaching a destination, to seek and to ask without ever coming to a conclusion, is a sad, uncourageous life. To remain open to everything is to attain nothing.
So let me get this straight. To be open to everything means you attain nothing? I mean, I'm still open to the possibility that God exists, but I've definitely attained a lot of shit because I've remained open to that possibility. I mean, I've had experiences and interactions which are invaluable. I've I've been able to talk to fucking Ray Comfort and he's misrepresented me on his fucking YouTube channel. So, I mean, I would classify that as an invaluable experience of being able to speak to somebody like Ray Comfort. And it definitely was a fucking experience for sure. It was something. We actually got a fruit basket from him. It primarily contained diuretics, which if you don't know, they make you shit yourself. So I don't know if it was a prank or something, but most of the fruits were definitely make you shit yourself. But in any case, but yeah, so I feel like I have attained a lot of things, and me remaining open to the possibility of God does not mean that I have foregone attaining anything. This is, I would classify a non sequitur because it just makes no sense. The premise doesn't follow, or the conclusion doesn't follow from the premise here. This just makes no fucking sense to me.
At some point, we have to take the risk, even if just temporarily, and make a claim. What a waste to live your entire life as an agnostic.
Hold on. No, it's not to waste your entire life. You can still make positive claims even if you're open to the possibility of being proven wrong. I do that a lot of times. With my mythicist position, I make positive claims about certain things in the position, using the position about certain pieces of evidence. And I make positive claims about those things. That doesn't mean that I'm not open to being proven wrong or that I shouldn't be open to being proven wrong. I absolutely know this for 100% certain. You don't have to be 100% certain about anything to say, well, I believe this thing to be true. I feel like you should be as certain as possible for it, but that is going to change depending on what topic you're talking about. With whether or not Jesus exists, I think that there's a 33% likelihood. Well, I'm using Richard Carrier's number, obviously, but around a third or somewhere around in that neighborhood, I think that is the likelihood that Jesus did exist in history. So that leaves a monumental amount of space for Jesus to be proven to have existed in history. So I am not sold on any one particular position. I also like how I feel like he's about to go into this whole spiel about how you've wasted your life by not being dogmatic about shit.
And make a claim. What a waste to live your entire life as an agnostic.
What a waste? It's a waste of your life to be an agnostic about things. To not know some things. I mean, I feel like it's far more intelligent for somebody to admit that they don't know than for you to dogmatically assert that you do. Because, I mean, you can be proven wrong. Hell, evolution can be proven wrong. You just got to provide the evidence. I mean, seriously, I don't see how he can get away with being a progressive Christian or Catholic. Catholics are Christian, but whatever. I don't see how I can be a progressive Catholic here and then just have so much toxic and emotionally manipulative shit that he says in his video. You could just, I don't know if maybe I'm the only one that's hearing this, but I feel like directly telling somebody that just says, well, I don't know. And telling that person you're wasting your life by not committing to an answer to whether or not God exists or insert any topic here. Obviously, I'm concerned with God existing, but insert any topic here. I can't believe it. You're wasting your life. I mean, come on.
As an agnostic, sure, you're never going to be outright wrong, but But you're never going to have a chance of being right either. You're never going to find fulfillment, purpose, direction, or any sense of meaning if you remain open to everything.
I mean, I feel like those things have no bearing on whether or not you're agnostic. Like having purpose and meaning and all that kind of shit. None of that has any kind of bearing on whether or not you're dogmatic about any certain positions. Like those things just, one thing does not inform the other. Like this is totally not connected whatsoever.
What a waste to live your entire life not sure if your partner is the one.
I mean, yeah, I feel like Casey's the one, right? I feel like, all of those things. But I mean, there are good reasons for me to feel that way. But does that mean absolutely? I'm not absolute about anything. There could be something to happen in the future where some shit goes down and life gets fuckered. You don't have to be dogmatic about anything. This guy wants you to be dogmatic about something. And I guess on a Christian view of everything, they only, like especially Catholics, they only view marrying the one time. And they really don't like polyamorous relationships or any other form of relationship out there. They don't accept those because, they think one and done, except for these very few instances in the Bible where God is totally fine with, multiples and even slaves being, part of the equation there. So, I mean, let's not even mention any of that in the Bible. Let's just stick with one man, one woman, forever. And I feel like this kind of mentality has definitely seeped into a lot of people and think, oh, well, I'm miserable, therefore I can't get out of this marriage because I'm religious and I dogmatically hold to this whole idea that I'm married for life now. If that were the case, then I wouldn't be with Casey now. I'm glad that I don't think that, but it's still just, it's really fucking crazy to hear from Friar Tuck here, all of the shit that he's saying, because it's so obviously toxic and emotionally manipulative.
Sure, you're never going to be heartbroken, never have to deal with a messy divorce, but you're also never going to experience the sort of love that comes only with commitment and vulnerability.
You can commit and be vulnerable and still be agnostic about shit.
He continued down this line of thinking for everything. A career choice, vocational discernment.
Oh, okay. So one and done on career choice? There's no, you can't choose a different thing? You got to be dogmatic about if you choose a career as an astronaut as a 14-year-old, you're supposed to just continue with that your entire life, choosing only that one career move? Is that what you're saying? Oh, are you supposed to commit to whatever fucking car you buy? Oh, nope, I definitely picked that Pontiac Grand Prix, and I'm going to stick with that until it fucking dies. Is that it? The thing that he's saying here is just so fucking ridiculous. To suggest that people have to stick with one career and they can't just change shit up if they want to. I can't tell you the number of times college students have changed their career paths while they're currently fucking in college. If I had done that, I would be a fucking doctor right now, and I would probably be miserable, or I would have racked up hundreds of thousands of dollars in school debt, which I luckily only racked up tens of thousands of dollars in school debt. Being dogmatic about this kind of shit is just ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous.
Political positions, which movie to watch on Netflix. With every decision in life, the end goal must always be to actually make a decision. It begins with an open mind. It starts with seeking, questioning, removing biases, doing everything you can to come to the truth. But at some point, you must come to the realization that you will never have enough information, that you will never exhaust everything that can be learned.
Right. And that's why I remain open-minded. This seems so bass-backwards to me. It really does. He's being you have to realize that you can't know everything, and so you just got to commit to one answer forever. Does that not seem stupid? I don't use the stupid word lightly here, but that literally seems stupid here. You don't know everything, so just go on ahead and commit to this one answer, even though you don't know. Wouldn't you want to remain open if you don't know? I agree with him. There's no way that we can attain absolute knowledge. That's why I'm not going to be I hard commit forever to this. That's the reason why I don't do that. But He's telling me to do the opposite, because it's opposite day for some fucking reason in his head, of directly committing to something, even though I am not confident in it. Like, it's not that I'm not confident in evolution. I'm confident in the evidence for it, but that confidence doesn't supersede the possibility of shit being proved different in the future. And in fact, the way that we currently understand how shit works now will most definitely change in the future at some point.
But must make a decision anyway. Now, I'm not suggesting that we must make a dogmatic decision about everything, or...
Oh, okay. Well, we must not make a dogmatic decision about everything. Please, Friar Tuck, what should we be dogmatic about? Can you please give us some kind of criteria for determining what our dogmatism should cover? What should be the base of all dogmatism? Can you please tell me that, Friar Tuck? Or do you have some more beer to go and mix up? I think they do beer at his particular seminary. Where do friars live? Do they live in castles still? Like, I don't know.
That we should never change our minds once we've decided something. There is a sense in which an open mind is still a very good thing. What I'm suggesting is simply that an open mind is a means to an end, not the end itself. It is the thing that gets us where we're going, not a quality of a good person.
Does any of this make sense to anybody? Like, the way that he's talking about having an open mind, like, is it a means to an end? I mean, unless you think that there's an absolute end to knowledge and that we have the possibility of attaining that knowledge, then I guess it is a means to an end. But like, again, I go back to citing what the criteria is for absolute knowledge or absolute truth. Like, how would you know that you've attained this absolute truth? How would you know that? Because I feel like you would have to know that criteria in order to know whether or not you've attained absolute knowledge. But he is like, you know what? We'll just never know. So you might as well just pull the ripcord right now and just believe in some bullshit that even if you don't actually believe in it. And I feel like all this is leading up to, so accept Jesus Christ and believe in God. Otherwise, burn in hell, motherfucker.
The irony of being open to everything, of never settling on anything in particular, is that you'll never actually know when you found the right or wrong answer.
I mean, I adhere to wrong answers all the time, and then I change my mind once it's been proven that I'm wrong about it. Like, none of this is like all that bad that he's talking about here. Like, he says all of this shit as if like maintaining that you could be wrong about anything is somehow bad or negative. I feel like that just keeps your worldview constantly updating with new information. Like, it's a lot like, imagine this. Okay, just putting it in my kind of area of expertise here, being the technology world, engineering. This is the entire argument that he's making here would be like if somebody was like, you know, it's pointless to have a computer if you're always updating it. I don't even know why you would even want to have a computer if you're just going to update the hardware and the firmware and all this. I mean, you really just need to pull the pin and just commit to one computer, one version of the operating system, and you need to keep that forever. And you just got to maintain that you will never try a different like video card, try a different operating system or anything like that ever again. You just, and don't you push those hot fixes, okay? Whenever Microsoft says that you need to update your system, you tell them to fuck the right off, and you are not going to update your system and prevent people from hacking in because you don't believe that people hack into computers. That's just not possible. You've got an old ass book that says it's impossible. I feel like he's trying to convince people not to update their systems and that it's actually a bad thing if you continuously update your system with the most recent patches. And I feel like putting it in this context should make every person that works in IT security or IT at all cringe at the idea of this.
Must be willing to take risks, to put ourselves out there, to stand for something rather than be open to everything. Maybe we'll come to realize that we were wrong.
Again, he keeps saying these things like you can hold positions, right? You can have positions on things. You can be convinced of things, but still be able to have your mind changed about it. These are two separate things. It's not like you've got to get rid of one to attain the other. They can both exist together, Friar fucking Tuck.
But at least we'll have found something, and we'll be closer to our ultimate destination than when we started.
Oh, what's that ultimate destination? Fucking God up in heaven? Oh, well, I guess that would be God fucking our mouths, right?
Commit to something. You may never know the right or wrong answer beyond a shadow of a doubt, but what sort of life is it if you never even try?
Being agnostic about anything or everything, I guess, means that your life has meaning. He keeps repeating this same thing the entire time. And it's not true. I mean, you can be completely agnostic about every fucking thing. You can still have meaning in your life. You can still take on positions and hold them and defend them and believe that those positions are true while still at the same time not knowing absolutely whether or not they are true. Now, I will say that I am Gnostic about the biblical God. So maybe Friar Tuck was right in this situation. Maybe I am a bit dogmatic about whether or not the God of the Bible exists, right? Maybe that's what I'm being dogmatic about. I guess that definitely could be it. I don't know. I'm still open in the future to being proven that Yahweh exists, so I'm not completely ruling him out. So I guess that kind of breaks with the dogmatism a little bit, but I would say that I'm Gnostic about whether or not his God exists. Yahweh, the God of the Bible, the Old Testament, and all this other shit. I feel like their definition of God, their understanding of God, violates a number of logical things that are laid out in the Bible. And because of this, that makes God logically inconsistent, which means that he can't exist in reality. Now, if you can show how logically inconsistent things can exist in reality, then I would probably be open to the idea of Yahweh existing. As Catholics and Protestants understand God, the various ways that they understand God, and what's actually written in the Bible, what's literally written in the Bible, just like things about history, things that were done and everything like that, which don't necessarily track to history or whatever. But those things, like all of that, definitely leads me to the conclusion that this God's logically inconsistent with what has been written about him, quote unquote, apologist verifiedly, describing God or whatever. All of that is logically inconsistent with their concept of Yahweh. Now, could their concept of God be the true one? Sure. Is that God the same as the one that's characterized in the Bible? Definitely fucking not. So it's kind of it's a weird situation there. So I don't know. I don't know how you would classify that. Would you classify me as dogmatic about it, or would you classify me as not being dogmatic because I'm still open to the possibility of God existing, even their God existing, the biblical God, or whatever God they've created? Anyways, that's going to be it for the review tonight. All in all, Friar Tuck just showed how, even though he's apparently a progressive Catholic, he's still very toxic and emotionally manipulative. But that could just be that the Catholic religion, like the Christian religion in general, is those things. Christianity is toxic. Christianity is emotionally abusive. Christianity is manipulative. All of those things, like Christianity is those things, and that's just coming out in the way that Friar Tuck is framing his argument here. And ultimately, his argument is, well, there's some things you just need to not worry about and just accept. You got to stop thinking about it. You got to stop thinking. You just got to take hold of the world by the balls, and you just got to admit that, some things and stake a claim. But I think that you can still attain happiness. You can still be a fulfilled individual, even if you don't make any kind of positive claims whatsoever. Him claiming that being agnostic about shit means that your life is worthless? Fuck off, Friar fucking Tuck. Anyways, he pisses me off. If you will, please go down below. Let me know what you thought about tonight's video review. Do you think that Friar Tuck needs to go back to the drawing board on this, or do you think that he's correct? Let me know down below in the comments section. I would really love to read all of your thoughts on Friar Tuck's video. While you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.